Brats, chicken, dogs, plus all the fixins. And with the UBT Go app, I can track my food spending from anywhere.
Pro move.
They don't call me Grill Sergeant for nothing.
No matter your goals, UBT helps you feel good about reaching them. Union Bank and Trust. Member FDIC.
Are you ready for a new opportunity? Check out Sandhills Global. Join a dynamic team where your skills are valued and your career can soar. We offer full-time positions with a 4.5-day work week, competitive pay, excellent benefits, and a positive work environment. From IT and marketing to sales and finance, we're looking for talented individuals just like you. Apply today at sandhills.jobs and take the first step towards an exciting future. That's sandhills.jobs. Don't wait, apply now.
I want to ride. Do you want to ride? June is officially riding month at Rod's Power Sports, Nebraska's largest volume Honda Power Sports dealership. Come in now and take advantage of huge savings and a great inventory selection during Rod's I Want to Ride celebration days all month long. Simply schedule a qualified demo ride on one of their new Honda motorcycles, ATVs, scooters, or side-by-sides, or purchase a new or used vehicle, and you get a free custom I Want to Ride t-shirt. Plus, all month long, they have 10% discounts on all wearables, parts, accessories, and oil change kits when purchased with a new or used Honda. Free refreshments served each Saturday morning in June. Just show up and say, I want to ride, and they'll fix you up with some free stuff and help you pick out that new ride. Come ride with Rod's Power Sports in Lincoln or online at rodspowersports.com. For your safety, read the owner's manual and always wear a helmet and eye protection. Honda Power Sports vehicles are for riders 16 years and older. Honda recommends that all ATV riders take a training course.
Hi, I'm Asher on summer break and about to start second grade. Thanks to awesome people like you who picked Aloe Fiber. They donated $193,000 to schools like mine. This summer, I'm using my fast internet to keep learning, and I can't wait to tell my teacher everything I discovered. So if you're a grown-up picking internet, choose Aloe, because Aloe chooses us, our schools, our town, and our future. Go to aloefiber.com to learn more.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com.
On the internet.
KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket.
Have you been injured in an accident and don't know where to turn? You need an attorney you can trust to handle your case with professionalism and compassion. The attorneys at Liberty Law Group understand that a call to an attorney is a call for help. If you've been injured, we want to help you. Liberty Law's experienced attorneys are committed to the pursuit of justice for those injured. Call Liberty Law Group and find out how we can help get you the compensation you deserve. Call 877-42-LIBERTY. 877-42-LIBERTY. Liberty Law Group. Trial attorneys you can trust.
Attention all Wings fans, Buffalo Wings and Rings has daily specials that will make you want to stop in on all days of the week. Kids eat free on Mondays, and on Tuesdays enjoy 40% off boneless or traditional wings at a price that makes the whole family happy. And come back on Wednesdays for $1.39 chicken tenders all day long. Get to Wings and Rings today, 68th and O or in Williamsburg Village.
Empire Netting and Fence delivers top quality netting and fence solutions. From major sports venues to backyard installs and everything in between, coast to coast. We take on tough jobs with grit, integrity, and a strong commitment to safety. Empire is growing, and we're hiring motivated people ready to grow with us. We build each other up, and we're building something big. Think you've got what it takes? Apply now at empire-fence.com. That's empire-fence.com.
A smoke-free environment is the only way to fully protect from the dangers of secondhand smoke. That's why smoke-free policies are so important to me. Whether it's in my car, apartment building, or when I'm dining outdoors, there's no place for secondhand smoke or e-cigarette aerosol. Breathe easier knowing the facts. Visit smokefree.ne.gov. Paid for by Tobacco Free Nebraska. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Coming at you live from the heart of Lincoln, America. This is Old School, sponsored by the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese. Nebraska Football Hall of Famer Jay Foreman and Austin Orman. Old School with Foreman and Orman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
What up, happy Friday. Jay Foreman, Old School, the new school way is blazing here in Lincoln, Nebraska, 100 degrees, 100 miles an hour wind. We are brought to you by the Mercado, Certified Piedmontese, Special Ingredients and Butcher Shop. 84th and Havelock, 30th and Yankee Hill, 85th and Old Cheney / Andre Matt, and 168th and Maple. We're going to get right to it. Very rarely, but I get to get talk to them all the time. We will welcome in. I'm going to put it out there, Dad, in the universe since football starting is the future, hopefully a Hall of Famer, former Minnesota Viking great, and obviously the great one of the great dads out there. Welcome back into Old School.
What's up?
Not much, Dad. I know you're busy, but I wanted to ask you. Number one, we'll dive into your Canes. I'm going to give you your chance to talk about your Canes.
Okay.
But I want to talk to you about this new age of NIL and recruiting and how it's so much drastically different, obviously, than when you were getting recruited.
Right.
Even though you guys had a little bit of an NIL going down in Miami. So just talk about your thoughts on this new age of recruiting.
Well, I think I don't think there's anything wrong with a kid getting paid. Of course, the schools are getting paid. Everybody's making money. They should make some money, but the thing is, they got to set some guidelines to keep everything in the space that it belongs in. You know, these young men. Now, I read where one kid went to USC, then he went to Rice, then he went to 3-4 different schools, and then at the end he ended up with $4 million and didn't even play but 13 games altogether. So, and then the money, the kids got to understand where the money is. You know, if you got $1, you know you're going to be spending $2. You know, it's about controlling, teaching them about how to handle it. I'm just glad that they've done a little so far to try to get it under control, because it does need to be under control, because, you're going to have the haves and the have-not-nots. That means there's going to be so many other college programs that are going to suffer. But hopefully they'll make the changes they need to make, and the college football will be better for it. But college football is my favorite sport, so I'm hoping for the best there.
Yeah, Dad. I talked about it. Obviously when last year, when you went into the Ring of Fame. Talk about that, just because number one, I was on the previous hour, I was talking about obviously you making the trek from Frederick down to Miami in 1968. Talk about that, because obviously it was a unique time in United States history, but a unique time at the University of Miami, and then obviously you being the pioneer of the first recruiting class down there. Just talk about that process.
Well, it was interesting, because the guy that was checking me out checked me out mistakenly. He was I think we were playing a school called Bel Air High School. They were from Baltimore. We were playing them. The coach from Miami was up, recruiting him, and then we were playing against them. And obviously I was going against this guy. He was a running back. I played at that time defensive tackle, tight end. And that's where I first came in contact with Miami. But other than that, it was Maryland, maybe Michigan State, someplace, Syracuse, places like that. But when I went for my visit to Miami, I thought it was, just the place for me. They only had the first five. I was going to be, they had two black athletes down there at the time. One was named Ray Bellman. He was the first, and Tom Sullivan. Then, of course, I came in with a guy named Burgess Owens. And, so we really, all three of us were, played in the NFL. All of us played. And I was, of course, Burgess and I were number one draft choices. But that's when the floodgates started to open in Miami, because, of course, back in that time, they were just integrating schools in the South and in the Southwest, Southwest, and all that. So that was, a challenge, somewhat of a challenge, but we knew what we had to do, and the responsibilities we had to make sure we got our schoolwork, did the things that we needed to do to get ready for the season, do what we had to do to get better, put the time in off the field. Put the time in on the field, put the time in the weight, all those types of things we had to do to be successful down there, because it was, like I said, the beginning of integration in Miami, Florida, all those schools. We were just starting to, they were just starting to open the doors. So I had For me and at the University of Miami, our president was a guy named Henry King Stanford, and he was the guy that insisted that the program be integrated. And he was one heck of a. I mean, I guarantee you this: if I had an issue of any kind, I didn't go to the coach. I went to the president of the school. The door was open. And when my parents and I went down there as a recruit, and he was talking to my parents about your grandparents, obviously, they talked to them, and they were real comfortable with me going to school down in Miami. But it was a great experience. Miami, of course, has gone on to do some great things, and unfortunately, sometimes they forget about who started the program, who got it going, and they just concentrate on the current players. But we know where it all started. And I did get into the Ring of Honor. I was in the Hall of Fame, but it took them all that time to put me into the Ring of Honor. And then some of the guys, when I got in there, said, well, now this thing is legit because you were in there. And so I don't know, the whole story about it, but finally in there, and the great honor to have. And being a Hurricane is, excuse me, but nothing like it.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I think I was excited, for you to get it because we had talked about it over, the years you get in there. But one of my favorite stories is when you went up. Obviously growing up in Maryland, Penn State was obviously a big school.
Yeah.
And just talk about. I always say this. Dad, it's funny. I always tell people you went through the thing with Penn State. I went through it kind of like with Minnesota, and
Right.
the scouting or coaching isn't perfect, recruiting isn't perfect,
No.
and then obviously we were able to go to better places. Just talk about that process of
Okay.
not going to Penn State. No, but now I got to tell you, remind you, we're on live radio now. Okay,
Okay.
we're not in the
I'll
car,
make sure.
so make sure.
Yeah, I
tell
can't
the
say
story.
it the way I normally. I can't
Yeah.
say it the way I would normally tell the story. But anyway, Joe Paterno and my high school coach, Adam Craven, they were friends. And, we had a pretty successful high school football team. In fact, we only lost one game in 3 years that I played. And, I was like state champion in the hurdle, state champion and all that stuff, and basketball and all that. And we, anyway, we were being recruited, and then Coach Craven says, okay, we're going to go to Penn State. When, I introduce you to Joe Paterno. Remember, you're going to Penn State, and, it's the best program in the country at the time. And, we'll let him see and watch the film and see what he thinks. So anyway, we go to Penn State. They're real nice. They fed us. We got in there and we watched the film on Penn State at the time, and we watched those guys that they had on their team and playing there. And so I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, and I had a friend of mine with us named Ryan Proctor. He was a linebacker. Anyway, so as we watched the film, and he was watching our film while we were watching Penn State, but he comes back out and he says to us, well, guys, I watched your film, but I just don't think you're Penn State material. And my friend and I looked at ourselves and we started laughing. And he was looking at us like, what was wrong? And I can't say the words I said to him, but I'm saying, are you telling me we can't play with that? It started with the S.
Yeah.
And we just started laughing, and our coach was like, that's Joe Paterno. And we said, we don't care who he is. I know I'm better than half the players I'm watching on the team, and I ain't even on college yet. And so we ended up leaving there. And, of course, we didn't go. I actually went to Miami, but my coach lectured us all the way, but we were real confident guys. And then as I went on to college and stuff like that, and then I got into the NFL, and I got an award in Maryland. He was the headline speaker. And he says, boy, I sure made a mistake on you, didn't I? I said, you're damn right. And so he just like shook my hand and said, well, that's one mistake I made, I know. But I guess what I'm saying is that not only did I have great coaches, but they gave us every confidence in the world to be who we were, and to let us know, you put the work in, what you see is what you get. And you watch those film, what you see is what it is. And we saw the film, You know, they had good players, but they couldn't play with us, you know, by any stretch of the imagination. So that was my big Penn State story, was Joe Paterno. Of course, when my father and mother heard about it, they weren't too happy about it, but I've always spoke my mind, and that's what I told Joe Paterno at that time. I'm like, and as laughing as we said it, like, pointed, you telling us we can't play with that? You know, this, you know, and that's the way it went. And so we just started laughing, and of course our coach was upset with it, both of us. And you know, then that's later. Soon after that, I went on and signed with Miami.
You know, Dad, one of the things I think that the lost emphasis now is multiple sport athletes. And I think obviously people see, you know, how great you were in college. And then, you know, you just mentioned just real quick that you were a defensive tackle tight end in high school. And obviously you ended up being one of the greatest running backs of all time. Talk about you used to always emphasize to me, play every single sport, compete and everything, because one helps the other. Talk about how that's kind of died off, but then talk about how important it was to you, because people don't realize basketball, track, and then obviously football, how great you were in all three sports.
Well, I had more basketball offers than I did football. I was state champion in hurdles in Maryland for 2 years in a row. TrackMan, you know, basketball, all those sports. And I firmly believe that each sport gives you something else that helps you in the other sport. Regardless of what it is, I know football, that determination, you know, when you got that physical thing, you're going one-on-one with somebody and stuff like that. That's a whole different process than there is when you, you know, in a track meeting, you're looking over at a guy and you're run 100, well, back in my day, 120 highs, 110 lower high hurdles. And, you know, it's not a physical thing. It's a mental thing. And it's did you put the work in? And when I say did you put the work in, okay, there were some guys that were faster than me, probably, but my form was so good that I would just skim the hurdle. I'd beat them every time on that. You know, there were a lot of guys that were faster, but my coach, his name was Jack Griffin. He was the head track coach for the U.S. 1968 U.S. women's track team back in time. And so he was like the greatest, the best there was. So putting that time in and playing all three sports, you know, to me, I think, number one, it gives you a selection of what you want to do. And number three, I think all three contribute to the other. And so now in this age of guys are just playing one sport, well, you know, they playing basketball, or they playing football, they might run track or baseball. They don't do anything else. So how they going to know how good they're going to be at anything else? And they might be better at the other, but they'll never know, because somehow with the way things are going now, you know, if you're going to play basketball, you got to play in all these tournaments in the off season where you're supposed to be doing something else. You're playing football, you know, and they want you to play basketball during football, and it's unfortunate that to me, a lot of the young men that are in sports today, they don't even know how good they could be, even at the sport that they choose, because they haven't participated in the others. And I think the best thing that ever happened to me is that I was a multi-dimensional player in every aspect of football, because I was a football player. I just didn't play fullback or running back or tight end or defensive tackle at the time. You know, I played football. There was no position I couldn't play. But that was because that was back in those days, that's how they coached you. You had to play both ways, you know, and like I always told you when you were coming up, hey, man, you know, you play both ways. When you were at Minnetonka, remember, and they were having you go one way, and I'm like, what's up with that? And that's one of the reasons why I transferred you over to Eden Prairie, because I didn't like the fact that you were only playing one way. And I thought that was going to shortchange you in the end. And so I think now, especially when you see it now, all these athletes, pretty good ones, you know, they shortchange themselves all the time, because now they are just not giving themselves a chance to be better at the other sports that they're probably better at.
Yeah, I know. The one I always tell people is, like, you know, with you always kind of kept things simple, and you always say, look, you know, one sport helps you be better at the other, and then, you'll know when, you have once, your main sport.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I talked about is like when I was getting recruited, how you were able to, I guess shield me from all the nonsense, but then also be able to decipher through it. Talk about that because, we had unique, experience with the University of Minnesota, but then also you, when I remember the conversation, I felt like needed to get, should have got more looks and, had to, obviously after the Bloomington Jefferson game, the rest was history.
Right.
Talk about, the role as a parent, and especially I was probably obviously magnified now. Talk about your role as a parent, because obviously our experience as father son is uniquely different than normal people was because of your prowess on the football field. So talk about your process as a parent that you had to, or we had to go through in the recruiting process in high school.
The one thing with you for sure was, people, because you're my son, everybody saying, well, they expected a lot, and I wanted to make sure. Hey, wait a minute. They said, well, he's no Chuck Foreman. I said, well, hell, ain't nobody else Chuck Foreman, but me. But what I wanted to make sure you didn't go through was that thing where there was so much expectations of you that you wouldn't be allowed to develop to be the kind of player that you were going to be. And, that one school you went to, I just didn't think that coach was capable of that. Because he was, he just, to me, it was uncomfortable because I'm watching you, being the better athlete, not being on the field. And I'm, and then being my son in Minnesota, that was also something that I never had really asked you a lot about, but I knew that would be some pressure you'd have to deal with, but I thought you'd be able to deal with it. And then when it got to the point where, you were developing and you were getting better and better, and I watched you play basketball, and, I saw your hops. I saw all these things about you as an athlete. I said, okay, I'm being honest with myself. I'm saying this guy can play wherever he wants to play. He just got somebody just got to give him the opportunity. But one of our schools, our local school, University of Minnesota, when you come up, we went to visit. That guy said that, he said, well, we're not recruiting Jay. I'm saying, wait a minute, let me just respond to you this way. I said, number one, you're not even in our top 10. So you don't even need to call us or tell us anything. I don't know if you remember that. But Minnesota was not in our top 10 of schools. And then you went on and signed with Nebraska. And then, there was a little something about it on the news. Yeah, Foreman not good enough to play at Minnesota, but really good enough to play at Nebraska. And then when we met the coaches, Coach Osborne came in, remember?
Yeah, I remember that.
And and he came in, and then he says, well, we got a lot of Lawrence Phillips was there. Well, we got Lawrence Phillips. We got some great running backs, but man, I think if we got him in our program, boy, he could help. He could play some great defense for us. And I'm saying, well, I didn't know how you were going to take it, but you surprisingly were accepted that role. And as it went on, they got you down there. I remember you got on the weight program, and I forgot which. You came home for a holiday. I came in the house. I didn't know who was in the house. You were physically different. You were bigger, stronger, and all that kind of stuff. I really didn't even know my own son. But that's how things go. And if I had anything to say to any parent, don't believe. When you say guys are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars, don't even believe that. This is what you do when you get there. You can see that. Because I know even for me, when I came out of college and we had all these great running backs, Greg Pruitt, Otis Armstrong, all these guys went to the bigger schools that had the bigger names back at USC, UCLA, all that stuff. But when I got to those All-Star games and I just observed, and I'm saying to myself, this guy can't play with me. And so, but that's because I put the time in and I observed and watched. But that's what a lot of kids, they need to put that work in. Don't worry about those stars in front of your name. You got to worry about putting the work in. And now, how many 5 stars or 4 stars you see supposed to be so great? Hey, 90% of them don't even make it.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you know what, Dad? We're gonna go to a commercial. Come back. Can we get you for like 10, 15 more minutes after about 5 minutes break?
You send me $100.
All right, this is old school. We're gonna take a quick break. We gotta get our $100 together. We'll be right back. Chuck Foreman. All right, we'll be right back.
You're listening to Old School with Jay Foreman and Austin Orman. Download the mobile app and listen wherever you are on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
With UBT, you've got total control over your money. Like Doug, who runs his game day tailgate like a well-oiled machine.
I got burgers, brats, chicken, dogs, plus all the fixins. And with the UBT Go app, I can track my food spending from anywhere.
Pro move.
They don't call me Grill Sergeant for nothing.
No matter your goals, UBT helps you feel good about reaching them. Union Bank and Trust. Member FDIC.
Hey Husker Nation, this is Todd Euler, 2-time national champion, here to talk to you about Window World Lincoln. At Window World, we specialize in replacement windows, doors, siding, and roofing. Whether you're looking to enhance the beauty of your home or increase its energy efficiency, we've got you covered. And here's the best part. We offer the best for less. Our team is dedicated to providing top quality products and exceptional service at affordable prices. We want to earn your business and make your home improvement dreams a reality. So why wait? Contact Window World Lincoln today at 464-7313 or visit our website at WindowWorldLincoln.com. Window World Lincoln, where quality meets affordability.
A lot of businesses say they're family focused, but when tough situations in life arise, the business wants anything but your best interests. James Enterprise Incorporated is hiring, and they will always treat their employees like family, just as they do their customers. James Enterprise Incorporated is hiring Class A and B CDL drivers, a shop tech, and a diesel mechanic. If you're looking for a career with a company that goes above and beyond to value you and your family, apply today at jamesenterpriseinc.com or call 402-432-6740.
A smoke-free environment is the only way to fully protect from the dangers of secondhand smoke. That's why smoke-free policies are so important to me. Whether it's in my car, apartment building, or when I'm dining outdoors, there's no place for secondhand smoke or e-cigarette aerosol. Breathe easier knowing the facts. Visit smokefree.ne.gov. Paid for by Tobacco Free Nebraska. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
I want to ride. Do you want to ride? June is officially riding month at Rod's Power Sports, Nebraska's largest volume Honda Power Sports dealership. Come in now and take advantage of huge savings and a great inventory selection during Rod's I Want to Ride celebration days all month long. Simply schedule a qualified demo ride on one of their new Honda motorcycles, ATVs, scooters, or side-by-sides, or purchase a new or used vehicle, and you get a free custom I Want to Ride t-shirt. Plus, all month long, they have 10% discounts on all wearables, parts, accessories, and oil change kits when purchased with a new or used Honda. Free refreshments served each Saturday morning in June. Just show up and say, I want to ride, and they'll fix you up with some free stuff and help you pick out that new ride. Come ride with Rod's Power Sports in Lincoln or online at rodspowersports.com. For your safety, read the owner's manual and always wear a helmet and eye protection. Honda Power Sports vehicles are for riders 16 years and older. Honda recommends that all ATV riders take a training course.
Things that impair you come in many different shapes and sizes. Some are the shape of beer and liquor bottles. Others look like cigarettes but aren't cigarettes at all. These are the things we know impair us, the things our parents warned us about. What we're not always aware of is our new prescription or the over-the-counter medicine we picked up just for allergies or a bad cold. See, it doesn't just matter how much of a substance you take. If you are impaired, driving is deceptively dangerous. Don't drive impaired. Paid for by the NDOT Highway Safety Office.
Hi, Sean Callahan here for Cobble Chevrolet GMC, and the hail sale has been a huge success, but is winding down. We still, though, have several units with huge discounts. Plus, we have brand new Sierras, $14,000 off list, or starting at $37,105, or 0.9% APR on select new models. Yes, you heard right. $14,000 off or 0.9% APR on new Sierras starting at $37,105. So please check us out at cobblecars.com. All deals with roof credit, stock number G2893558.
Have you been injured in an accident and don't know where to turn? You need an attorney you can trust to handle your case with professionalism and compassion. The attorneys at Liberty Law Group understand that a call to an attorney is a call for help. If you've been injured, we want to help you. Liberty Law's experienced attorneys are committed to the pursuit of justice for those injured. Call Liberty Law Group and find out how we can help get you the compensation you deserve. Call 877-42-LIBERTY. 877-42-LIBERTY. Liberty Law Group. Trial attorneys you can trust.
93.7 The Ticket, Fox, KFXL weather. Brought to you by Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing.
Brutally hot here over the next several days. We're going to see an extreme heat warning go into effect at noon and last until Sunday evening. We'll get up to 103 for a high today, but breezy with wind gusts up around 40 miles an hour. Tonight, we're only going to drop down to 80 for a low and then get back up to 103 for a high tomorrow. I'm meteorologist Aaron Downa for 93.7 The Ticket and ticketfm.com.
Hi, I'm Asher on summer break and about to start 2nd grade. Thanks to awesome people like you who picked Aloe Fiber. They donated $193,000 to schools like mine. This summer, I'm using my fast internet to keep learning, and I can't wait to tell my teacher everything I discovered. So if you're a grown-up picking internet, choose Aloe, because Aloe chooses us, our schools, our town, and our future. Go to aloefiber.com to learn more.
Back to old school with Foreman and Orman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Old school, we're back. Jay Foreman live once again. Got my dad. Dad, you still on?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. One of the things I wanted to get into, you talked about recruiting. And then obviously we're here in Nebraska. And obviously, you know, if people don't know, in order to recruit me, it's a hard sell. You got to get through my dad because it's we are a hurricane house, you know, from top to bottom. Talk about the few things I remember when Coach Osborne came to our house, and we were very appreciative that he came up right before they left to go to the national championship game. But from your perspective as a parent, talk about what made, you know, Coach Osborne appealing to essentially hand me off to him for the next 4 or 5 years.
Well, one of the things, first of all, just the way he approached us, and he came in and he sat down and talked to us. You know, and the thing that impressed me so much about Coach Osborne, obviously, you know, he knew he was there to recruit you as a player, but when he got to talk to us first, he was talking about the academics first and what they had in place to help the players with the academics. I mean, that was like a half an hour. It seemed to me when he came in there, I'm like, wow. And then after that, he got to, you know, to the football part of it. And then he was talking about how, you know, he's watching you on the field. You remember that one game you played, you kind of laid this kid out. And I think that's when he saw your defensive abilities. And then he was honest with us about that. He made no promises to you, but he said if you come in and put the work in, he thought you could be a real big asset to the program. And to me, with all the schools that I talked to, we saw. I'm not saying they weren't nice people, but the fact that and then you know he gave us like the graduate rate, what they had in place as far as tutors and what do you want to major in, all those little things that a parent wants to hear. But the one thing that sold me on Coach Osborne was when I looked in his eyes and I listened, I saw this something I didn't see in everybody else. He was a straightforward, honest guy. I knew, I had a feeling that, you know, he would look out for you, but he would also discipline you if he needed to. And, you know, and I know he would call me if you got out of line or something like that. You know, there was just something about him that separated him from all the other coaches. Not saying that they weren't nice or anything like that, but he was sincere about not only you as a player, but you growing as a man. And that's when, but I still was hoping you'd take that trip to Miami, though. I mean, even though all that was going, but Coach Osborne was, that's how he separated, from my opinion anyway. That's how he separated me from the other coaches. I knew that when I dropped you off down there, you'd be in good hands.
Yeah, I know. I always tell people after I decided to go I said I was going to commit. Remember, Coach Brown came like a couple of days afterwards.
Right.
He kept asking me if I was sure, and I stood up and I said yes. But you ain't never tell anybody. You ain't talked to me for about 3 or 4 weeks.
No, because I wanted you still to take that trip to Miami, though. But you made the right decision at the right time for you. And and I'm happy that you did, because you might have enjoyed it, but heck, I enjoyed coming to Nebraska all those weekends to that atmosphere and that program, and just to see it operate the way it did. Yeah, you made a great decision.
Yeah, one of the things I always tell people that obviously you're able to come to every game, and that's you can't put a price tag on that. But talk about how when. Well, two stories. One of my fondest memories is our drive down to drop me off.
Oh, yeah.
And
Okay.
then as we got closer to Lincoln, you gave me the riot act. You pretty much told me, don't make me come back down here, and you better get a good education and don't back down from anybody. Just telling everybody what you said.
I told him all that. I told you that, but I told him exactly this. I said, look, all those guys that we was talking about files, everybody down there going to be All-American. You know what I mean? But you can take that All-American and throw that out the door. I said, what's going to make you, because there's not going to be many better athletes than you down, but you got to put the work in. And, you put the work in, I have no doubt what you can do. But, if you come down there and you don't do what you got to do, Osborne ain't got to worry about discipline. You can see, I come out there and go on the field. And I come get to myself. I mean, that's what I told you. When you, I'm like, but you never were a problem. But I'm just saying, but I told you that. But the main thing I made sure you understood was who you were, the work you had to put in, and to forget about all those All-Americans down there. You know what I mean? Because believe me, through my own experience, I've seen some All-Americans that couldn't have made my high school team. And that's a true story. You can't judge a guy by his press, but you got to judge him by his performance. And to not, for you anyway, I told, hey, look, you never did, but you can't be backing down now because it's going to hurt a little bit, but that's football.
Yeah.
But, and the main thing was make sure you're on those grades.
Yeah, and speaking of grades, I always tell people, you know what I'm going to say. Listen, we always talked about discipline, the pain of discipline and regret, and how you got a parent different or a coach different, really, in this day and time. But I'm going to tell you this right now, everybody listening, man. When my dad tells me he would snatch you up off the field, I was not upholding the standard. I always talk about the standard that you had for me academically. As far as effort. And I was feeling myself. I was in 8th grade, I think, 7th or 8th grade on basketball. I'm the king of the castle. In my grades, I had a couple of D pluses. So I'm in practice trying to be cool. Dad, you could take the rest. He came in and took me off the tee, man. Snatched me up off the floor.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I mean, like Coach told me, he said, "Hey, Chuck, he's eligible." I said, yeah, he might be eligible by your standard, but he certainly ain't eligible by mine. You got to go. Call me in a couple of weeks and I might let him back. And I had to make him, his teachers had to write me notes to tell me how he was progressing, because I was serious. I wasn't going to let you play that year, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I know, man.
You were getting full of your oath. Yeah, I had to bring you in a little bit.
Yeah, a lot of it. Well, I mean, it was one of those things. I didn't talk to him I didn't talk to you I was so mad. At the time I was mad at you, but I should have been mad at myself. But it's a life lesson.
And you don't go from an A, B student down to D's and expect me not to say anything. So yeah, you got snatched off the team, And you're lucky I let you back. But after coach called me and teachers called me, and I think you must have told them, hey, you got to call my dad, so I can get back. I know that, but you did. And I finally let you back. You kept me off for a couple of weeks.
But I mean, I'm gonna tell you that we've been talking about coaching, how you got to coach different, but in try to leave a lasting memory.
Right.
That was one of the things that never left me. I was able to obviously graduate college early and so forth and so on. So that snapshot in 7th, 8th grade, lasted all the way up until through college and a little bit after. Dad, I want to ask you though, like. I always tell people we had a unique relationship growing up just because of who you were. And then, we had to grow up together. And you see other people do it, and then they go through the pros. I want to ask you from your perspective. I never got to really ask you, so I get to ask you in front on live air. What was it like? You obviously were the best at your position, and then able to see me kind of make my own way. On a whole different side of the ball, and how you used your experience to actually, the conversation we had was to help me play linebacker better as I started to play defense.
Well, first of all, man, there's one thing you got to put the work in. You got to know what you're doing, number one. I knew you were a hard worker, but you remember them times out there I told you we were throwing that football, and you weren't aggressive enough at going after it, and so I just, challenge you to do that better. But the main thing is for me was, for you anyway, it was that work ethic, to establish that real early, because you see, the one thing that I know is that always holds true for athletes. You saw every step that you take from junior high to high school, you got to commit more at each level. And see, most people, or a lot of them, when they get to this one level, say like first they go to high school, then they get to college, and they got to turn it up to a whole new level because the competition is that much greater. And they've been so used to working just off their athletic ability, but they haven't developed themselves mentally, getting ready, smart game, know the game, or physically, and make that commitment to being the best that you can be. I got to give you credit. You did all that, and, you went from, 185-pound running back to linebacker to Nebraska, and you did all the things you needed to do to get to where you were. But in the same token, you had, the coaching and the other things that you had, to get you to that point, because it's not, I keep telling people all the time, okay, well, he's got all those physical tools, but is he mentally ready to play? And people don't understand that part of it, because that's the most difficult part of being all that you can be and being the best that you can be. Because it's tough. Some days are going to be tough, but you got to be honest with yourself about your weaknesses and about your strengths. And then you got to go improve them. And, guys that do that and can maintain that level of concentration, that level of commitment, always excel. And so, that's why you see a lot of guys that are great athletes never, ever achieve what they want, because they really haven't made that total commitment in all phases of what it takes to be a winner. And that's all I can say about that.
Yeah, that same conversation. I remember each level we used to always have the same conversation, and we just get a little bit more in detail and as progress. So it's obviously definitely works and holds true. And Dad, we got a lot of Vikings fans that listen or that are here in Nebraska, as especially when you used to come down.
Right.
And with Jim Marshall passing, just give a little bit of an insight of what it was like to have him as a teammate. I knew you know him as Uncle Jim, but just talk about how he was as a teammate.
Well, you remember his wife. You remember a couple of times his wife had to watch you when I had to leave town.
Yeah.
But anyway, Jim Marshall to me he was the first Minnesota Viking player I met when I came up here for negotiating my contract with a guy by the name of John Wooten, who was a guard who blocked for Jim Brown. And Jim Brown and Jim Marshall played together with the Cleveland Browns. you know. But Jim Martin, when I got here and I met Jim, the thing that John Wooten told me, he says, listen, Chuck, this guy's going to be one of the greatest people you ever met and one of the toughest competitors you ever meet. But believe me, don't even think of trying to do what he does. I'm like, okay, I don't know what that means. But when I got Jim was, hey, listen, let me put it to you this way. He was a great, great leader. There was no place you would want to go without him. Heck, he could lead SEAL Team 6 and 7 and 8 and bring them all home safe. And I'm not joking when I say that. That was the kind of impact, and that was the kind of a guy he was. And the kind of just how you trusted him as far as you knew he knew what he was doing. He was one of the smartest people you ever want to know. He knew all that, all that Krav Maga and all that kind. I mean, everything you could think of. And he talked about leadership. I mean, I've seen him like, okay, one game we were going to play, Jim's in the hospital. They said they had to take Jim to the hospital. So we're thinking he's not going to play. Okay, so we're sitting there in the locker room and we get ready to go, like a couple minutes before we're supposed to go on the field. And next thing you know, Jim walks into the locker room. Well, you know, a few hours later, I mean, they say he was almost, I don't know what was wrong with him, how sick he was, but they said he couldn't even walk. But he came in that locker room they went and got him in the ambulance. Ambulance brought him back to the stadium. He got up, out off the cot or whatever they call it, in the thing, and then came into the locker room, dressed up, went out, and played the game, had one of the best games he ever had in his life. But he was not only that, but he's just one of the greatest people you ever want to meet. He, like I said, you talk about leadership, you know, the word captain, all that. Hey, man, just throw the word captain out and put Jim Marshall there. Because this guy, let me say it another way, too. You know, when God made him, God said, okay, I'm going to put one of these out here. Let me see how it goes. Okay, and then when God was done with him, he said, I ain't making no more of these. Because this might, you know, that's how special he was. He only made one of them. And that's Jim Marshall. Just the greatest person, the greatest captain, one of the best teammates you ever want to have, one of the best people you ever meet in your whole life.
Yeah,
I can't say it better than that. You know.
Yeah, that's not a better compliment than that, man. I mean, he's an iconic figure and an even better, better uncle. Dad, real quick before we let you go, everybody, again, we have Vikings fans down here. Obviously, what the success they had last year, and I know obviously you saw improvement. What's your outlook for the Vikings this year with McCarthy taking over the reins of quarterback?
I'm cautiously optimistic, I guess you can say. I like what they've done with the offensive line, because we all know about that. Nothing's going to happen. I think defensively they've improved. The big thing is the quarterback, because I thought the quarterback we had last year they should have kept, and then let JJ come along slowly. But that's not the way he went. But from what I see, and like I said, I haven't seen him play. I saw him play a little bit in college, but just knowing the people involved with the decision and talking to some of the players on my show, everybody's confident that he can do the job, and maybe he can. Maybe he can be like the kid from Washington and get in there and just turn it out and do all the things he's good. But I know JJ. Like J.J. Jefferson likes him, and I think I'm just going to. It's kind of like a wait and see. If he stays healthy, you see what he's going to do. But I think the Vikings are going to they'll be competitive for sure, and depending on how well he plays, maybe they can go to a whole new level.
Yeah, that's good. You always used to tell me the best ability is your availability. Appreciate you, Dad, coming on, man. Love you. I'll see you next week, man. And
all right, yeah.
I'll get
Bring
that
my girls up here, man. What's wrong with you?
I'll bring that $100 too, man. We're gonna take a quick break, come back, put a bow on this bad boy. All right, Dad. Love you.
All right, later. Love you.
Watch Old School live on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. Old School with Foreman and Orman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Saturday. Eagle Raceway is open for a full season of dirt track racing action every Saturday night. Don't miss the epic battles on the high banks of Eagle Raceway each Saturday between the Nebraska Septic Sprint Cars, Nebraska Lottery Modifieds, Avid Realty Sport Mods, Valentino's Hobby Stocks, and A1 Iron Stock Cars. Let's go racing. Eagle Raceway, just 10 miles east of Lincoln on O Street. Check out the full schedule at eagleraceway.com.
Things that impair you come in many different shapes and sizes. Some are the shape of beer and liquor bottles. Others look like cigarettes but aren't cigarettes at all. These are the things we know impair us, the things our parents warned us about. What we're not always aware of is our new prescription or the over-the-counter medicine we picked up just for allergies or a bad cold. See, it doesn't just matter how much of a substance you take. If you are impaired, driving is deceptively dangerous. Don't drive impaired. Paid for by the NDOT Highway Safety Office.
Are you looking to upgrade or improve the garage door on your home? This is Cameron Hall of Doors Plus. At Doors Plus, we guarantee to offer a wide selection of options from 5 leading garage door manufacturers as we deliver a free estimate, exact measurements, and rapid installation with a 3 to 5 week time frame. When you choose Doors Plus for your residential garage door needs, you'll work with our experienced technicians and be ensured that your new door seamlessly complements your home. Give us a call at 402-590-5800 or visit us online at DoorsPlusLLC.com. Doors Plus, garage doors, and more.
RC's Boxing presents this Saturday at the Complex amateur fights with a little bare-knuckle bite. Some of Nebraska's best amateur boxing, along with a professional bare-knuckle bout between Jack Lawless Frericks and Jake Palmer, and a kickboxing bout between Demorio Dennis and Eric Murray Jr. Go get your tickets at thecomplexlincoln.com, where you can live stream this event as well. Doors open at 6 p.m. and first bout is at 7 p.m. this Saturday at the Complex at 1555 Yolanda Avenue.
Attention all Wings fans, Buffalo Wings and Rings has daily specials that will make you want to stop in on all days of the week. Kids eat free on Mondays, and on Tuesdays enjoy 40% off boneless or traditional wings at a price that makes the whole family happy. And come back on Wednesdays for $1.39 chicken tenders all day long. Get to Wings and Rings today, 68th and O, or in Williamsburg Village.
Breathe easier inside your home with Bryant. Eliminate allergens and odors and control humidity too. For a breath of fresh air, call 467-1111. Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing.
A lot of businesses say they're family focused, but when tough situations in life arise, the business wants anything but your best interests. James Enterprise Incorporated is hiring, and they will always treat their employees like family, just as they do their customers. James Enterprise Incorporated is hiring Class A and B CDL drivers, a shop tech, and a diesel mechanic. If you're looking for a career with a company that goes above and beyond to value you and your family, apply today at jamesenterpriseinc.com or call 402-432-6740.
Grandma and Grandpa, Mom and Dad, then the kids, and now the grandkids. Judson Irrigation has provided lawn sprinkler system design, installation, repair, and service to 4 generations. They're just like members of the family. Loyalty, trust, service. It's what you deserve and expect from Judson Irrigation.
Keep summer green. Call Judson Irrigation 402-420-6277 or judsonirrigation.com.
Hey there, this is Paul Scheel, owner of High Electric. I want to thank our friends and loyal customers and introduce High Electric to those looking for a new electrician. We've been serving the Lincoln and Omaha area for over 30 years, from design to install, upgrades, and repair. If you are a homeowner or a small business needing some electrical work, call us at 402-466-6606 or check us out at hyelectric.com. We look forward to hearing from you.
The Lincoln Light Guy salutes the men and women of our military and veterans for the sacrifices they've made. Keep them in your thoughts, prayers, and letters from home until these trying times are over. Our troops are fighting hard around the clock to defend our great country and keep freedom alive worldwide. For this, we salute them and may God bless America. This from Lincoln Light Guy. Locally owned and operated, installing and servicing permanent, holiday, and special occasion lighting for your home or business.
Back to old school with Foreman and Orman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
We're back, old school. Quick segment here before we put a bow on this bad bow on this hot Friday. Once again, appreciate the Viking fans. We'll make sure we post it on the Ticket Twitter and stuff.
Yep.
And Dad's always a good interview. It's always good. I mean, I talk to him all the time, but that's just a little taste.
Well, that
he's serious about that $100.
We're gonna make sure we got you 44. OG on this, he says, Jay, that was freaking awesome. JL says that was awesome to listen to. Thank you for that. Being able to hear the legend, and it's two legends having the conversations. But that's me poking the bear, saying, Jay, I've been talking about this since day one. That needs to be a regular occurrence.
I always say people always think. One thing it wasn't the child, growing up, we had to grow up together, through this like sports, this vacuum sports life. So what kids are dealing with now, I was dealing with back in, 80s and, 90s, always, through and still do it, a little bit now, but, everybody was either, okay, you made it. So it was easy. It was actually, at times there was, more lean times, but it brings you closer together. And I was fortunate enough the byproduct is probably from his high school coach. And that's why coaching is important, or his mentors. And obviously started with my grandfather and oldest uncle, but his high school coach instilled that confidence, that blind confidence in yourself, which then he always, kind of in his confidence, not cocky. He say, everything he says, listen, you do what you're supposed to do, put in work, it's going to be successful, believe in yourself. And then obviously have the, a little bit of, not the unwillingness to back down, and the rest to be history. And sometimes you got to push against the system per se. But, it's obviously, one of those things I think brought us, really close together in those conversations we used to have. He's, when you're driving back from, whether it's a basketball game, and then you just, for me, Jim Marshall, Alan Page, Carl Eller, like Joey Browner, Chris Carter, AC Carter, Anthony Carter, Steve Jordan's he was a mentor. He gave me my first pair of football shoes because I couldn't get size 14 at the time. And, his son, Cam Jordan,
yep.
Those guys are just family together. And so it was really, it was a really cool experience growing up like that, and look back at it. Wouldn't have any other way, even though at times, one of the things I'll say before we go to break, my dad said he never asked me what it was like. Really it took me until I started to mature a little bit of not have animosity because of always being known as Chuck Foreman's son. That's probably one of the biggest reasons why I never considered Minnesota. Now, number one, they were slow playing me a little bit, right? But then as I started to take off, I wanted to go create my own path. And now I probably, for Miami would have been kind of like how Dylan is here, but they went on like probation because of Pell Grant. So it was an easy excuse. And then Coach Osborne and them really, really knocked it out of the park and really opened my eyes up to it. But I wanted to create my own path. And that's not the main reason why I started to play defense, but it's one of the reasons why I wanted to play defense, to kind of see what I could do. But, my dad was always there, every step of the way with it. And, but it took a little while to kind of use it, not look at it as a negative, look at it as a positive. Because you got guys that, hey, when you get in here, you're starting as a freshman. Oh, you're only starting because of who your dad is. So then that kind of, you always had to fight against that. But it was obviously having a good, backbone and good, obviously support system really helped. So I appreciate him coming on. So anyway, that's a good bow to this good week of Here the Ticket. We were up at CWS all week. We're going to be there again this weekend and Saturday. So appreciate you guys listening. Old school way. Jay Foreman, DP, and my man Jackson sitting in on the ones and twos. We'll holler at you next week.
Load up on meat and more this summer at the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese. This week's specials through June 24th are $1 off ground beef, 15% off on aprons, 15% off Cornhead beer, and buy one, get one 50% off on brats and hot dogs, limit 2. Plus, stop by for lunch on Fired Up Thursday at the Mercado East or Fired Up Friday at the Mercado North. Locations at 84th and Havelock, 30th and Yankee Hill, and now 85th and Old Cheney in Lincoln, or 168th and Maple in Omaha. Get to the Mercado today for the best meat in town.
Grandma and Grandpa, Mom and Dad, then the kids, and now the grandkids. Judson Irrigation has provided lawn sprinkler system design, installation, repair, and service to 4 generations. They're just like members of the family. Loyalty, trust, service. It's what you deserve and expect from Judson Irrigation.
Keep summer green. Call Judson Irrigation 402-420